Hello, happy Monday. Welcome to Checkin In, the hospitality and tourism podcast. I'm Jeremy Nichols. I'm with Gecko Hospitality. I'm a headhunter in the state of Florida in the hospitality industry, and I'm always happy to welcome my good friend and co-host, Peter Ricci. How are you, Peter?
Hello, hello. Every time I hear our entry music, it makes me feel so chill. I just was on
That was the purpose.
a Virgin cruise a couple of weeks ago, and I just felt like I was back on the ship. So thank
Did
you.
Did the DJ play that song for you?
And everything good here. I'm Peter Ricci. I run the hospitality tourism program at Florida Atlantic University. So we're here again, once again, with another fun topic. This month is private country clubs, and it's an unknown to many people even within the hospitality space. So we have two amazing guests today, and I'm just very excited. I was telling Jeremy before we got here, I always think I'm going to retire, but when I say retire, I mean try something new. So I would think I'll go work in a club for a few years, or maybe I'll go work in a casino for a few years. But clubs, they've been on my mind all weekend. So I'm excited.
Not a professional podcaster, though. That's not what you want to do.
That's not the horizon. I give you my one day a month, and I'm sufficient on that end.
With that said, we are live. So if you are watching live and you have any questions, you can definitely put those in the comment section and we'll bring them up to the screen. And if you have any, comments and just want to chime in, feel free to do so. With that said, I'd like to bring out our first guest. I'd like to bring out Michael McCarthy. He's the COO, General Manager at Addison Reserve Country Club. Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Michael, welcome. Great to see you, my friend.
You too, Peter.
Addison Reserve, for those of you who don't know, is in beautiful Delray Beach, Florida. Gorgeous top club in the world, right? What are tell us some of your accolades to get started on that.
I don't. You know me. I don't like doing that. But we've had we've had an incredible run over the last 20 years. Addison Reserve is in Delray Beach. I am the CEO for the last 20 years. We weren't what we were today back then. We've had an incredible journey, and we'll talk a bit more about it. It's been about culture and our people from day one, and we think we've built a heck of a brand along the way. The club is currently ranked number 4 in the country by the Platinum Clubs, 21 in the world. It's a distinguished club ever since Boardroom and Forbes started that program from day one. So we got a lot to be proud of. We tend to try to keep under the radar and keep all of those accolades in check. I think the more you put that stuff out there, sometimes it gets you in trouble, especially with the members, because they expect more and they're expecting perfection. And we try to give them that member experience every day. But we don't like to flaunt and brag and tout anything, because we're truthfully as good as our last meal.
Absolutely.
Second, we want to bring out our second guest, Kelly Grabowsky from the Florida chapter of the CMAA, Managing Director. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
I guess my first question to you is to tell our viewers, what is CMAA?
Oh, so CMAA is the Club Management Association of America, and I am the Managing Director of the Florida chapter. So each state or region has a regionalized version of the national brand. And so we're the Florida chapter. We are the largest chapter in the country because we do have, and Jeremy knows this, being a headhunter in Florida, we've got such a dense population of so many clubs. So it's just a great opportunity.
That brings me to my first question, just piggybacking. What does it mean to club professionals, and why does membership in your organization matter?
It's not only about education. We say it's kind of like the three-pronged stool. It's the education, but it's also the opportunity to bring people together and network. Because, and Michael can attest to this, the brilliant thing about this association as a whole is it's not, the corporate, well, I figured it out and now good luck to you figuring it out. It's like, I figured it out. Let me share my success with you. Let me share some pitfalls that don't go down the same path. And so being a member of CMAA, it broadens your network and your outreach, because we are all dealing with the same things. It doesn't matter what coast you're on, what club you're at, we're all dealing with the same challenges.
And one of the questions I have for that, because the reason I want to do this podcast is we try to be broad and call it tourism in every piece, from a wholesaler to an airline to a Brightline employee, anybody who works in our great service industry. But private club industry, what is it? I think, is it a fitness club? Is it a yacht club? What is it? So I don't know, Michael or Kelly, tell our viewers, what is the private club industry?
You want that, Kelly?
Go ahead, Michael. You take it, and if I have anything to add, I'm happy to.
So the private club industry is obviously, it's something special because you have to have accomplished something in your career to be able to join a private club, right? And I think the makeup of it is always been about really, really successful people that have reached a pinnacle in their career or in their life, that they wanted to belong to something, to give them an opportunity to be around like-minded people. Way back when and still today, some of the biggest business deals in the world take place out on the golf course or, in the dining room of a country club. So giving those members that opportunity to network with one another, with like-minded people, is really what a club is all about at the end of the day. And, that was how they were formed, and they've grown into much larger operations, especially the real estate type clubs like mine. You have to offer everything today. So we not only have to be good at golf, we need to be, great at health and wellness. And that is, a top priority today. We know that. You need to be great at rackets, and you need to be on top of it. It just can't be tennis. It has to be pickleball. It has to be padel. You have to have incredible food and beverage, right? If it's better out on the street outside the gates, they're going to go there. And our goal is to keep everybody inside the gates, because again, they joined and moved into a place because they wanted to be around like-minded people, and giving them those social opportunities to socially interact and connect with one another on a daily basis with people that really care, meaning our team that cares for them, and they're not a customer, but they are an owner. I think separates us from the public side of things. We build relationships through our people, and our culture is built on our people. And when I talk about our people, it's our members and it's our team members, and they have to be intertwined and connected with one another for us to be successful. And I don't think you see that outside in the public sector. There's great resorts that make you feel really, really good, whether it's Four Seasons and Ritz and some really, really high-end properties where the guest experience is sensational, but it's transactional and it's not relationship building. You check out on Sunday and maybe you'll be back, maybe you'll never be back. Where on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday, it's a relationship that is building day by day between our team and our members that makes that member experience top flight.
And Kelly, are there other kinds? So in Michael's case, it's a community, and people purchase a membership in a home and they live there. I know there are tennis clubs, racket clubs, yacht clubs. So there are other types as well. Can you talk a little bit about the private club space? And there's all different varieties, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd love to piggyback on something Michael said, because it's the difference, and you can sum up clubs in one sentence, right? Hotels are transactional. You check in, you check out. But at clubs, it's transformational, and it's building those relationships and really those connections, because you are having the same clientele over and over again. Your members are there consistently. And to your point, Peter, we do have multiple, we've got city clubs, not as prevalent in Florida. You see, more of those up in the Northeast in the larger cities, but we do have, racket clubs and yacht clubs and beach clubs. And it really, we have so many exceptional clubs. In the Florida chapter portfolio alone, there's around 360. There are over 1,200 clubs in the state of Florida. But it's really finding that niche. Like Michael says, you're bringing like-minded people together. So we've got so many exceptional clubs that are offering all of these amenities, these great food and beverage experiences, and these great, all of the amenities and wellness and fitness. But it's also that culture or the soul of the club, because each soul is different. You can have a beautiful landscape and an amazing golf course, a beautiful food and beverage experience, but it's really finding the soul of that club to make sure that the members really are, all melding and jiving together. And that's really what makes it such an exceptional experience.
Kind of want to dig into something we spoke about earlier in the green room. We were talking about hospitality and how it kind of overlaps with private club. And just for those that are watching that are not that familiar with private club, want to know what makes club management a distinct career path, and where does it overlap with the rest of hospitality? Because I'm sure there's some great talent outside of the club space that would make great employees within the club world.
Well, good,
Go ahead.
Mike. So, I mean, I'll share my story. I didn't start in the club space because I, like many of Peter's students, didn't know what clubs were. My grandfather loved to golf, but we were not, we weren't going to the club on the weekends. We weren't that family. So when you say clubs, you're like nightclub, dance club, I might be aging myself, but we didn't know what clubs were. And so I began as a culinary student and went to the hotel route and thought that was, the path. If you wanted, longevity, you went to a hotel. Restaurants were a little bit more transactional and transient. And then I moved to Florida and fell upon a club. And I went, my gosh, this is amazing. And you were, the specialty of curating these events and, being on the culinary side and seeing it evolve there. And then moving into the, the front of the house space. I think it's synonymous. I think hospitality is applicable anywhere, whether you're at the DMV or whether you're at, at every stage of life. We always say, and I tell my kids, you're both going to work in hospitality because you need to understand and appreciate, things. So hospitality is not, it is synonymous with clubs. It's synonymous with restaurants, and hospitality is, what you do in your home when you have guests. So I think, when we say hospitality, we can't funnel or tunnel it into restaurant, hotel, cruise. Clubs have to be a part of that conversation because we're offering all of the same amenities, arguably at a much higher level of scrutiny, because we do have the same clientele over and over again. That oops can be remembered if it's a big oops. They're going to talk about it for years to come.
Those LinkedIn portfolios I see of the chefs blow my mind sometimes. I'm like, man, whew, the talent that you guys are getting on the culinary side is great.
Michael, what's your thoughts?
I like Kel. I didn't know you grew up on the culinary side. So did I, believe it or not. I started my career in kitchens and restaurants at 13 years old. Wound up getting my first executive chef position at 21 years old at Lake Mohawk Country Club in Sparta, New Jersey. And that led to an opportunity in another club in New Jersey that hired me as a chef, and I was promoted at 26 years old to general manager of that club. In 98, was recruited to come down to Florida, and the rest is kind of history. But I graduated from the kitchen and never went back in 1994. That was it. Once I got a taste of leading a full team and what that felt like, there was no going back. So I do get to cook at home, and it's a lot of fun. But one of the things that Kelly mentioned was the importance of kind of getting your kids to go into hospitality at some point. Both our girls through high school and college were put at great clubs like Mirasol, like Admirals, like Frenchman's Creek to cut their teeth. And there were three things that Irene and I wanted to accomplish out of that. First, we wanted them to be able to socially interact with people in this world today where everybody's texting and, we're not socially connecting with people verbally. I thought it was really, really important for us to put them in an environment and get those skill sets to be able to communicate and understand people. Number two, we wanted them in a safe place. I mean, yeah, it's easy to put your young daughter at the mall, but it's a lot safer, and they're around a lot. They're in a much better environment when they're behind the gates of a club and seeing that experience and compared to a job that most kids would get over at the mall. And then lastly, I wanted them to see what kind of success looked like. That, hey, if whether I stay in hospitality or not, neither one did, by the way. And they went and they are connected to the club industry, one through law, one through insurance. So it's kind of funny how they are in our business, but not in the day-to-day stuff. But more importantly, I wanted them to see that if they worked hard in life, that maybe one day, a club would be in their picture. When they got old enough and they saved enough money and they were successful enough, they would remember back where they started and say, hey, I've done well in my career and I want to reward myself and take care of my family and be in a place where there's like-minded people. So I think it's given us tremendous opportunity. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else than the club space. And I've been at it a long time, and we as a team at AR have been able to develop great leaders that are leading great clubs around the country that we're really, really proud of. And that's what we do. We develop people, and when they can no longer grow with us, we feel like we have a responsibility to graduate them onto something bigger and brighter for them. We just had our number 2 superintendent just get his first job as a director of agronomy. And we celebrate those moments, right? Josh is not ready to graduate yet from us. He's hopefully will be there for a long time with us, but his number 2 was ready to graduate. And that's what we promote. We promote, and we develop people. That is the core of what we do. And I think you'll see that consistently in the club space. I see it day in and day out.
Jeremy, if you want, you can pull up our next question, but I could just go on this conversation. One thing for our adult viewers, we tend to go HR and by nature, because that's who Jeremy and I are.
Yeah,
but,
I was steering that way, but I kept my mouth shut. You started talking about training.
I have to say one thing, and I said this before we all got live. I honestly can say of people who've left other segments, whether it's airline, rail travel, motor coach, DMO, if they go into a private club space, I almost never hear them leaving 5, 10, 20 years later, ever. And
I was just going to say that.
I'm talking about some of the best, because they were groomed at Four Seasons. Four Seasons going to hire 1 out of 100 interviewees. They were at Delta. They were at Disney. So they're usually the best service types, but they're also very good communicating business type people, because your members are successful people. So you look for people with warmth, with relationship building, etc. But I find it very impressive in today's day and age where our attention span is 10 seconds. I mean, and to do an hour podcast takes me a month and Jeremy planning to get it on our calendars and get our hour free, right? All of us. So to see someone shift and then stay in a space for decades and love it and say, I should have done this sooner, is always the norm of what I hear on the street, So, let me ask both of you this. If you are in other space in the industry, how do you learn about clubs? Because there aren't 5,000 Addison reserves. Aren't 5,000 Boca West, but there's a Marriott in every corner. There, so it's not known how to get in or how to find a network. So can you talk about that? How you both gravitated and how you first get in? And Kelly, I'll start. You go first.
Yeah. So, my start in the club space was organic. I mean, I came to Florida and there was just a multitude of better options in the club space. And, speaking to some of the benefits, there was 401k and there was paid vacation. And I was younger, but I was very cognizant that those were things that I should be looking for. And the restaurants were very, not transient, but, it was like, oh, you can cook at this amazing restaurant, which is a young culinarian's your dream. But then it's like, okay. And then in 6 months we close and you have to travel north and then work up there for 6 months. And so it was like, that's not something that I want to do. But getting into the club space now, I feel like is easier if you put yourself out there. LinkedIn is an amazing resource. So is Facebook and Instagram. I follow as many of our clubs as I can on there, and it's just seeing the fun things that they do, and it's from every aspect. It's whether it's Admirals, and I'll throw that out there because they do that crazy carnival that they put out, or when it comes to employee appreciation time, like you can just see the pings on your LinkedIn and your Facebook and what the clubs are doing to appreciate their employees. And it almost is like making them a member, not for a day, but some of these go on for a week or, the whole month. And so it's following and just being curious, right? Be curious and get into seeing I really like that, what they're doing. I like their ethos about, club and the engagement with their staff. And then, reach out and connect with someone. I remember I reached out to Michael during COVID, and I know we probably don't want to bring that up because, they were doing things that I was like, how are they doing that? How can they figure that out? And Michael and I hadn't really met, and he was so gracious and was like, Kel, let me help you. And this is what we're doing. And so it's putting yourself out there, whether you're in the club space or whether I was a restaurateur. I'm sure Michael still would have taken my call. It's you have to just put yourself out there.
Excellent.
I heard you mention members. Obviously, that's a big deal within the club space. I want to kind of talk about hospitality, managing guest relations, and then also the difference between member relations. So, how's managing a member relationship structurally different than managing guest relationships? I love the laugh.
Wow,
let's go.
I'm laughing because
they both got a chuckle out of that one. So there's some depth there. Go ahead, Michael.
I say this all the time, right? In the resort world, the hotel space, restaurant space, you get a bad guest, the guest checks out or is given the check, and they're blackballed and they never are allowed back on that property. In our case, you get a bad member, we're living with it daily. And if we get enough bad members, they remain and we leave. and that's the unfortunate thing. So you have to make every effort to deal with the unreasonable ones and try to win them over. And at some point, you may not be that person that can win that individual over. I remember probably about 5 years ago having a conversation with my board about a small group that, now I'm 20 years into it. So 15 years trying to please this small group, and I never was able to please them. So I finally said, they suck the energy out of me every day, and it's not fair to the rest of this organization. It's not fair to the members. It's not fair to my teammates that this small group of negative people just suck the life out of me every day. And I've made a commitment that I'm just not going to deal with them anymore. I'm going to let my number 2 deal with them. He has a much better relationship with them, and they like him, and it's a connection there. So we'll let him deal with them, and I'll be my mind will be so much better to get that negativity out of my life. And my board chairman said to me, "What took you so long?" But 15 years of trying to please and not being able to do that means you got to cut the relationship. And that's hard in the club space. Now, I didn't go and tell those members that I was cutting them off, but I think they figured it out. I don't spend any time with them. I don't let them spew any of their negativity that sucks the life out of me. So in the member space, you have to understand that you have to build those relationships. And if you can't connect with certain people, then you better find somebody on your team that will make them happy in some way, if that's even possible.
It's got to also be a challenge, I'm assuming, because this is an assumption. When you have great staff, it's obvious that you guys really care about your team and you develop them. And there might be a member who's just not treating them right. I'm assuming that's happened before. And like, how do you balance that? That to me would be a challenge.
That there's non-negotiables there, and the club leadership has bought into that from day one. We will not tolerate anyone that messes around with our number one asset. Now, our number one asset is our team. We can get in a drag out. I'm the CEO of the company. You want to come and scream and yell at me, we'll drag it out in the office. But if you abuse any one of our frontline people at our property, that board and grievance committee is going to come down really hard on you, and you will be on vacation. And now that we're an HOA, the entire membership will know what you did, because these meetings are public, and the entire membership will know that your behavior was unacceptable. And it probably won't end well for you. We had an incident earlier in the year. And the guy wound up the guy wound up selling his home and left the community. That's how bad it was for him. So we don't tolerate it, and we have to protect our people. And that is one of the pluses of being in a family environment the way we are, where the members and the team are committed to one another. They will protect that team for as long as they're there.
That's how you keep a team, because they see that.
Yeah,
I can tell you right now, hourly workers, frontline, and they see that you got their back. You got them.
Well, I have to chime in on this, because yesterday I was at the FAU Israel Institute, and I had the pleasure of having Bob Diener as my guest, who was the founder of Hotels.com. And one of the attendees, one of the student attendees, asked a very poignant question. And she said, I'd like to ask Dr. Ricci and Bob Diener, who are older than I am, and she said, and I'll politely say a while older than I am, which we both chuckled at. And she said, in your generation, you were taught the guest is always right. My dad told me that it became the guest or the member's always right, but they're not always right, but treat them with dignity. And she said, my generation is, you're not right, you're disrespecting me. And we will say that. So she said, I'm concerned about starting a job in a club or a hotel where sometimes the guests or members are over the top angry, and how my generation would respond to them. So, Kelly, I'm going to throw that question to you, because you're dealing with many, many clubs who have younger associates. And I don't like to call it thinner skin. It's a reframing of what tolerance will be and respect level. And I think what Michael said is we take care of our people, and respect is a must. So, Kelly, what are your thoughts on the same kind of conversation?
Well, and I think it has to be a balance, right? Because, we've had people reach out, and we coach and we mentor, and by no means do we ever advocate for someone to tolerate abuse. But we do have to train our younger folks coming up to how, there are going to be people that have a bad service experience. That was our fault. And they're going to be frustrated, and they're going to be disappointed. And there's a balance there where, they're allowed to be disappointed as long as they're doing it respectfully, and as long as they're treating the team respectfully. Some of the things that we've seen is, a team member a member comes in and they say, this wasn't good. I didn't like this. It was, and immediately they feel attacked. And it's like, okay, well, that wasn't necessarily the situation. You had a disagreement, they were correct in that expectation is not what we're, not the metrics that we're setting. And I think that it comes back to the leadership. If we're setting clear metrics of these are our standards and these are our, to Michael's point, these are our non-negotiables. It's very easy then for us to train our teams to say, did we hit that metric? No, we didn't. This is why the member was upset. And then also teaching them, what is tolerable and what is not. If someone comes in and is respectful in their tone and their demeanor, but is sharing with you their disappointment, you need to take that. You need to then, take it to whomever you need to, or you need to rectify it yourself. So I've seen it both sides. I've seen where people are, and I don't want to say ultra sensitive because that's not, but maybe coming up the culinary side, we did have a tougher skin, but it's knowing when it is appropriate that the member didn't agree with the experience. And, in that situation, the customer is right. Not always, but it's,
Right.
situational.
So,
And let me step back before Michael's comments too. I want the conversation to say, we're not focused on an industry where you're going to get beat up every day. We love our jobs.
Yeah.
All right. So tourism and hospitality, yes, come work with us. But if you're promising in this level of service and a guest or a member or a passenger has an issue with it, they have every right to have an issue with it. And the up and coming generation is as vocal on Insta and everywhere else with their experiences. So we're all about experiences. But I love what the club space does to protect its workers because they are utmost trained. One thing the private club space does better than any part of our business is staffing levels. The hotels have decimated staffing levels. So has rail travel. So has look at the airports with TSA workers at current point in time. So the club industry has never gone that route because the members have expectations. So they fund the proper staff levels. So I don't want it to go in a sense where we're going down that road, but it was such a poignant question for me yesterday from this young lady who was 21. I asked her, how old are you? She really wanted to learn how to deal with it properly when they can feel in their generation that it's inappropriate to even be spoken to that way,
So Pete, let me put a little different spin on this though, because these are the conversations that not only I'm having it with my colleagues, and we're starting to, feel the pressure of, what people are paying to join these clubs, right? The joining fees at all of these clubs have exploded, especially down in the South. And you have to take a step back and say, I hear this word entitled. We're dealing with a lot of entitled people. I'm not sure we're dealing with a lot of entitled people. I'm trying to educate our team and help them understand that in many cases, the minimum investment to buy into our experience is about $5 million. By the time they buy a home, renovate a home, join a club that is charging $400, $500, $1 million now. There's a club in Miami that just went to $1.25 million. How high would your expectation be if you stroked the check for $500,000 or $1 million and you're paying the club $60,000 a year in dues before you bought a hamburger? My expectation would be like really, really high. And it's not me being entitled. I just made a $5 million investment here. And, you start to drill down and say, it's not entitlement, it's expectation. Now, can we manage the expectation? And is the expectation unrealistic? Do they expect perfection in everything we do, everywhere they go? That's the question, right? So we are spending, our management team and our team are spending a lot of time trying to educate our teammates to understand what the buy-in is, because it's changed since COVID. Okay. Before COVID, these were $1 million investments. Now they're $5 million investments. And if I'm making that kind of commitment and investment to a club, my experience needs to be really, really good every time I go there for whatever I went there for, whether it's golf, whether it's rackets, whether it's the spa, whether it's tuna fish sandwich. It needs to be really, really good. And we can't make excuses. We can't make excuses about it.
Mm. And so you train for perfection, I imagine, is kind of your MO as best as you can, right?
It's not attainable, but I believe if you're striving for perfection, you'll stumble upon greatness. And it's not much different in the hotel space. And I'm sure they're dealing with the same thing. When you start to look at the prices of a room, okay, go on to Palm Beach. I check and see what the Breakers charges. I mean, it's thousands of dollars a night. If I paid thousands of dollars a night to be in a room for about 6 hours, everything that I do on that property needs to be really, really good at the highest level. And they do it at the highest level. There's no argument there. I think they do it better than anybody, but they're dealing with the same thing. If I'm writing a check for a couple $1,000s to sleep in your hotel, every interaction with a teammate on that property better be exceptional.
Yeah, I would have high expectations as well. I mean, I'm pretty sure you already answered this, but I actually had a question that was segueing right into what we were speaking about. Are members' expectations at a point where they're outpacing what clubs can realistically provide? I mean, with technology now, things are so fast. And I know that technology is obviously helping us do good service, but do you feel that's also a double-edged sword?
You know, Jeremy, there were times where I thought we hit the high water mark, and we're one of the more expensive clubs in the market. And, you know, I don't see anything stopping it right now. So as the chairman of the National Club Association, I get a lot of data on what the industry's seeing and where we're going and where we're going in the future here. For Florida, we do not see golf peaking until 2032. So there's plenty of runway still out there for golf to continue to grow. And golf is growing in an interesting way, because traditionally back then, it was a male populated sport. Today, everybody moving in, everybody joining a club is joining as a couple, and the female is just as active as the male in golf, which is fantastic. But it's creating compaction issues, you know, at a lot of clubs for tee times and things like that. The family is also golfing, which is also fantastic. So fantastic because we're growing the next generation of golf members, and where that takes our industry in the future, I think is super positive. But I'm not as concerned. I'm not as concerned about the demand outpacing what we can deliver, because as long as we can continue to attract a person that can write a check for $500,000 to join a club, it's giving us significant capital reserves to fix, rebuild, build new assets for them to improve their member experience at the end of the day. And I don't see that slowing down. We've been through enough difficult times down here in my 28-year run in Florida, where I've seen clubs continually grow during economic downturns. COVID was one. We've been through recessions. We've been through 9/11. Our clubs have grown in revenue during difficult times, and I'll tell you why. If members have to sacrifice something, they're probably going to sacrifice that $50,000 vacation that year before giving up their club membership. Secondly, if things get even more difficult, they're probably going to sacrifice their second or third club that they belong to up north. They're not, once they buy a home in Florida, it's very unlikely that they're going to go back up north and give up their Florida home and membership down here. So they'll cut they'll cut that membership up north out of their life. And then thirdly, if times get really, really difficult, they spend more money on food and beverage inside the gates than outside the gates because they know it's the best value. They also know in many cases that the service fees or tips and things like that are already built into their dues. So if they stay on property, they already have a 20% discount by not leaving the gates. So every downturn that we've seen in the economy, clubs usually have grown. At least residential clubs in Florida have grown. I've seen and talked to enough of my colleagues and know what those facts are. And I'm not concerned about it at all. I think the future is unbelievable for our space.
During
Well-
COVID, I saw it too.
Well,
Absolutely.
Everybody was closed. And clubs were,
Thriving.
To piggyback what Michael said, to the viewers, be cognizant of what's hot right now for the next 5 to 10 years in our space, because things change all the time. And clubs have maintained that hot ability to attract and be vibrant even during recessions. And what fascinates me is it's not long ago we were in meetings deciding what we were going to do about golf because it was diminishing. There were people less playing. Everybody was time starved. Well, here comes the pandemic and you can be out on a course and you realize, hey, this is my time together with another human. I can get off my device. All of a sudden it's super popular again to the point where it's exploding again. So if you had asked me this 10 years ago, I wouldn't have thought golf would be anywhere near this, right, Kelly and Michael? I never expected it, the resurgence. So, all right. So I know we have other questions. But I could talk to you guys about stuff. I just get so excited about this business. It's so nice for the two of you to say that you encourage your children to at least explore our industry. That just warms my soul,
Well, Kelly, being that you speak to many clubs, I think you said hundreds of clubs here in Florida. I think you're a good person to ask about technology and how it's changing in clubs and what you're hearing and seeing. So where is technology actually creating value inside the club operations right now? What have you been hearing, seeing?
So we've heard things and we've been asked many questions. We're actually very focused on AI this year in our educational series and our summer conferences because, at clubs, we are very hands-on. And so AI was a big question and concern of, is it going to take away from the service aspect of it? And at clubs, what AI is doing is it's that busy work, that desk work that all of us hospitality people hate because we want to be out with the people. We're being able to automate some of those things now, and it's getting us away from the desks and away from the things that have to get done to being able to have more hands-on time with our members and our teams. And so, we partner with several of the large technology firms. And so constantly, we're trying to have these conversations of where are our pressure points? Where could technology advance but not take away the human component? Because I don't think that that's ever our goal. I think if anything, it's having more contact and more person to person. And how can technology aid that? Whether it's, better point of sale at the pool, whether it's, some grab and goes out on the course where, you don't wait for the cart girl or guy to come up. And so it's enhancing, but it's not taking away. And so I think that's always going to be the balance. And those are the conversations we have with our point of sale folks and our technology folks of how can we enhance, but not take away.
It's like using it to help you, like you said, with the administrative tasks and giving you more time to spend with your members. And I know on the culinary side, I'm sure you both are seeing how it's helping, especially with like inventory and ordering, comparing.
Remember, Michael, did you ever have where you used to have the sheet and you'd write it out, and then we graduated to Excel and it made it a little bit quicker, but still awfully cumbersome. And now it's just plug it in and there, it's
comparing prices side by side. Yep. Your mayonnaise, how much it costs here versus there. I mean, it all adds up.
Yeah.
Wow. One thing I've noticed, and I wanted to ask you both, is that I have more colleagues moving into the club space And one of the things I applaud CMAA about is, every segment of our industry has designations now and certifications. So you can be a certified incentive specialist or a certified hotel administrator, you name it. And American Hotel Lodging and CMAA were one of the very early adopters of lifelong learning and improvement. So talk about, what BMI is, because it's a very commonly used acronym in the club space. And I know that a lot of people in clubs, when they aspire to your roles, you have to go through BMI training. So the whole industry is very predicated on education for empowerment, growth, and leadership. So Kelly, talk about what BMI is, and then Michael, maybe some comments too.
Yep. So the BMIs are the Business Management Institutes through the CMA National Program. And there's a series of 5 BMIs and then specialty BMIs. There's now BMI Golf, BMI Food and Beverage, and BMI Sports and Wellness. And what that does is, it might help somebody that has come out of the non-club space, and now it's that onboarding. So, again, I had come from restaurants. I came into the club space, got into CMAA and started doing these BMIs. And what it was hospitality, but with a club-minded focus. And so, again, it starts the education, the continuing education for clubs. It's almost like your club onboarding. But then it's also creating those networks of club folks that you're with. You start they don't number them anymore, but you start in BMI 1, and that those 30 or 40 people that you're with, typically you progress on to the different BMIs, and that becomes your contact of people. And so I think those are very important. But I focus, especially in my role now, it's not only those 5 BMIs, checking those boxes and being done, it's the continuing education. And so it's the thing I love about, once you've gotten your CCM designation, there's a maintenance of credits where you need to stay actively engaged, or you could lose that. And it's not an easy exam. And I swore to myself I would never, ever get into that situation. It's, 400 questions, 6 hours, 11 competencies. So I think, it's that continuation of somebody that isn't going to sit in the room and say, oh, I know it all, I don't need to go here or there. It's learning and continuing to grow, because these curriculum continue to evolve as our clubs evolve. And so, we've had people that have gone back and done the first BMI again, because it's like, well, I did it 20 years ago. Let me see, there's different content now. And so that's something that National is constantly, they're looking to update the booklet that, we study from for the CCMs. And then it's our supporting, what we're providing as regional chapters to help support that education and that structure as well.
And so, Michael, I assume that you've done all the BMIs plus.
Long time ago. But I will tell you, I have lifelong friends from 30 years ago that I went to that first BMI in California. And we've grown up in the industry together, and they're lifelong friends. I can call them for anything. One of the things that's in my opinion so special about it is the following. If you're willing to learn, and if you really want to be a well-rounded leader, you need to understand everything that you're going to lead at the end of the day, and not stick with your comfort zone, right? For Kelly and I, it would have been really, really easy for us to focus on food and beverage our entire lives. We would have failed as leaders if we only focused on that, because you need to fully be able to engage in agronomy. You need to fully be able to engage in sports. You need to fully be able to engage with your accounting team and your HR team. And what BMI does is give you all of those skill sets that you would have never picked up in, culinary school. And understanding that we're not supposed to be the expert in everything, but we have to be knowledgeable in everything. You can't be the leader of an organization and not fully understand how the retail operation works in your spa and your pro shops, right? We have to know about that, but we don't need to be the expert. We're going to hire somebody great to do that. We're going to clearly communicate what our expectations are for them. They're going to clearly understand, what our level of standards are. And we're going to get out of the way and let them bring their expertise to make that business better than what it was before they arrived. And we're going to closely monitor their performance and just let them do their jobs. Nobody wants to be micromanaged, but I think the BMIs and everything that CMAA and NCA and other organizations that offer workshops really is given all of us the opportunity to be better, well-rounded leaders, and given us those tools. So taking somebody from the hospitality space and moving them into clubdom, I highly encourage them to get involved in areas that they're insecure about, and because they're going to be with people that are in those classes that don't understand it either. So, we get to learn together, we get to continue to network with one another, and then we find out who's really strong in those spaces, and we pick up the phone and find those people, right? If I'm weak on the accounting side, I'm going to find a great leader of mine that came up from the accounting side and want to pick their brain and understand how they built their business around finance, because Kelly and I have come up from a different space, and I think that's important.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more because, when I first became a general manager, and then, accounting was my least favorite course ever at the University of Florida. And, but I had to hit the numbers. And so I would always rely. Then when I became a regional vice president, all of a sudden I had to know real estate and pro formas and things that I had not dabbled in. So you always have to realize, yes, you can be the leader, but you should not put on your shoulders that you're going to be an expert in everything. You'll have 2 or 3 comfort zones, but you support yourself with the best of the best in those other areas to be a leader. And it's funny, speaking to you both today, I remember interviewing Jeff Morgan, who's the president of CMAA National, for our viewers, during one of our certificates. And he also mentioned being friends with everyone he came up through the ranks with. And he was in the association space. So the association space, association management's not the same as working in the club all the time. So everybody's got their hot spots and their weak spots, and don't count that as a negative. But I applaud CMAA for the amount and the infusion of certificates and certifications and training that it does compared to any other industry segment. And it's just why you have such a talent. It's one of the reasons why you have such a talented and stable and long tenure workforce, because you will put the dollars behind training. And I applaud that, coming from spaces where I had to beg and cajole and plead to get some training dollars.
By the way, Kelly, why don't you talk about the scholarship programs that we have just in our chapter alone that pay for frontline managers to go to BMI. So it's not even that the club has to pick up the tab. Kelly and the Florida chapter board are giving these scholarships away, literally giving them away, and a lot of them.
Yeah, we give away about 20 a year. And it is to help support, through the BMIs, because we want to encourage them to do their BMIs, but then also, we understand clubs have a finite amount of resources, and we want as many people to be able to learn and grow and get this education as possible. We've added another scholarship this year that lets first-time attendees come to our summer conferences, which are 2 days of jam-packed education, networking, and getting to experience. And I think that's something that the clubs do very well too. Is we have these members with these super high expectations, but sometimes we have frontline workers that they go to Applebee's, and no shade on Applebee's. I don't want to get into, I know this is a live podcast, but if we're asking them to serve at this level, are we giving them those experiences? And so that's where, we really want to take them to amazing resorts. We want them to experience our clubs so they know what exceptional service is. So they know this is what the member's expecting, because we can train them to that. But until they've actually experienced amazing, Ritz-Carlton, Four Seasons, Waldorf Astoria service, they don't fully know, if they're missing the mark or if they didn't quite hit it. So, it's, again, we're trying to incorporate the networking, the education, but also that experience of, we want to give back to you what we expect you to bring to the membership.
Well, and for the viewers here, it sounds always odd, and I'm sure I get a little bashing in the background, but for an educator to say that you don't need a degree to be a superstar in our industry, that's old news, right? So I say do certificates, certifications, and or a degree in the space that you love, whether it's technology, whether it's accounting, whether it's this. But if you start working at a private club and you like it, take advantage of all this education that is put out to you. And if you do want to study formally, I think in Florida, I always give a shout out to Florida State University and, of course, to us at FAU, because FAU geographically, we're in the wonderland of the private club industry. Within 90 miles, I think we have 180 clubs. I mean, something unbelievable. So if you study with us, even if you're online and you come visit one time for a BMI session we host or something, study where the good club courses are. And FSU in Tallahassee has always had a club program. It's a legacy. Great leader, their leader, Don Farr. Amazing guy. So do your research, but take advantage of this, because I can say right out of the gate, if you're working for JetBlue or Hilton or one of the other big names, not to throw them under the bus, but you're not going to get the training opportunities paid that you will in the club space. So if learning is important to you and you cannot afford it, I've always found the club space to be better. So that's my shout out as an educator. You don't need a degree. You can bash me in the background, but that's
Got a little bit of a freeze on Peter. I want to kind of piggyback, if anybody can hear me right now with a little bit of a lag. I think that complacency is definitely a career killer. So continuing to learn and move through the industry should be non-negotiable, especially with how technology is moving so fast. And if you're not keeping up with it and you're just remaining complacent, you're gonna be falling way behind. Speaking of falling way behind, we have about four minutes left. So I do have one more question, because I know that there are students that are listening and people that are interested in hearing more about private clubs. So really quick, for both of you, for someone who has never considered the private club world, where do they go to learn more and to explore it as a career? Where can they find information and learn more about the industry if they want to enter the world of private club?
flcma.org.
Perfect.
Or CMAA.org.
Good answer.
Yeah. No, and I mean, connect now that you've seen Michael and I, and start connecting with us, and then you connect with our connections, and it just happens very organically. And I will do a quick plug to our students and our emerging leaders. Don't be afraid to ask questions. When I was a younger professional, I was always afraid to ask questions in a room full of Michaels, because I didn't want to seem ignorant. Then you get to learn and know about this association. The Michaels in the room want you to ask the questions so that they can share their knowledge. And then as you come up in this industry, you realize that mentorship is a two-way street. It's not, downhill coming, feeding all of that institutional knowledge. When we were in times of COVID, or now in times of innovation and technology, mentorship goes both ways. So for the student in the room or the emerging leader in the room that thinks they don't have a voice, please don't feel that way. Please raise your hand. Please ask the questions. Please make the statements, because that's how we learn and grow together.
Excellent. I think you said it well. I would say, do your homework. It's not hard. Go on AI, plug in top 10 clubs in Palm Beach County, top 10 clubs in Florida, and then start to follow them on Instagram, and you'll see some exciting things that are taking place at these clubs that you're going to say, nah, this can't be a country club. It is. If you go on Addison Reserve's Instagram, you'll see all kinds of incredible content. You'll say, that is amazing. I want to be part of that. They're doing unbelievable events. They're doing unbelievable golf outings. The experiences are at the highest level, and I want to be part of that. I want to be part of that culture. But it's not just us. I think the answers are all out there. You could find a club where you live that is performing at the highest level, and if you reached out to the leadership of that club, I'd be shocked if you don't get a return call and an invite up to that club to see what is behind those gates and understand what they provide and hopefully you'd want to be part of that, because it is culture. Culture is everything. We build relationships. They're not transactional. And in many of our cases, they last a lifetime. And never in a million years that I think that 20 years ago that I would be retiring from Addison Reserve. But yes, that day is coming. And it's hard to believe that I've spent half of my life there with that family, and it's been an amazing part, and it's been very rewarding for me. It's been very rewarding for my team and teammates, and I think it's been very rewarding for our members. And those are the things that you take away and say, boy, together we made such an impact on so many people's lives, from the member to the member's kids to the member's grandchildren to our teammates to their children. It goes full circle, and members will take care of you if you're taking care of them. Money will never ever be an issue.
Well, I want to thank you both for joining us. We're at the hour, and I do have on the side of me like 16 more questions, but we can't sandwich them in. But I know you guys are both very busy, so I want to let you know that I personally appreciate you taking the carving some time out today to speak with us, and hopefully shed some light and educate some people out there that are interested in the private club. So thank you both for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really appreciate your friendships with both of you. I try every day to get more people into this industry in any segment that matches with them. And to call on both of you and just have you here just always makes me just happy. And once we get our links and our audio out there, share it with your own associates, because they don't get to sit with you guys every day. Right. And that's what I find inspiring about Jeremy twisting my arm to do a podcast, is the after effects. Because people will tell me, I've known Kelly for years. I never got to sit and hear her for 45 minutes on her conversation. So it also helps people continue what we do in mentoring and pulling people forward. Michael, you're amazing at pulling people up. I mean, I think of my alumni that are still there. Like one of them, Chase, he went there as an intern. He's there 11 years later. I mean, and super happy whenever I see him out and about. That's what life's supposed to be about.
He will be a general manager one of these days.
Yeah,
there's no doubt about it.
So many examples of that it's just find your calling. So my calling's not podcast, Jeremy.
Same here. It's not mine either. Just once a month. That's all I got.
Thank you, Kelly and Michael, so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Well, thank you, Peter, again, this is episode 6 now. So
wow.
You're now a veteran, right?
All the people. I mean, conversations are just great. And, we're going to have topics ahead on destination marketing and technology, and just tourism is so fascinating to me. I have now my
endless.
I want to do rail travel. I want to do tour operator. I have so many thoughts in my head. But
we'll get them all down. We'll jot them down.
Yeah,
we'll take care of it.
Jess will remind me too. So thank you, sir. Great to see you.
Good to see you. Thank you for those who are listening. You can catch us next month. We can also check us on Spotify, Apple, YouTube. But with that said, I want to thank you all for joining us, and see you next time.
Yeah, send the links to your friends. I love the feedback.
I will. You got it.